Hey, everybody. This is Erik J. Olson, your host for this episode of the Managing Partners Podcast. We have interviewed over 250 managing partners from across the country at this point, finding out their pain points, what they're doing to run their firms efficiently, how they're handling their marketing, and how they are keeping their case pipeline full. And today from Miami, Florida, I have with me Christian Rodriguez. Hey, Christian.
Hey, Erik. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for having me as well. So we just had a hurricane roll off the coast, and it looks like you guys were spared. You usually take the brunt of it, but not this time, huh?
Yeah, I feel for our brothers and sisters over in the West Coast, especially in Fort Myers. I mean, I have friends that are over there, and the images and the stories are just heartbreaking. But
it is.
We definitely were spared.
For sure. Yeah. We have a couple of employees in Miami, and when I heard that it was coming towards Florida, I was like, oh boy, they better brace. Yeah. But they were in good shape. So anyways, hey, tell me a little bit about yourself and your firm.
Sure. So I'm the managing partner of Trembly Law Firm. We are a business law firm. Our mission is to protect the economy one business at a time. And we do that by protecting honest business owners from getting legally screwed, right? And there's so much red tape with businesses nowadays. People want to start business. They don't really understand all the rules, regulations, and laws. And sometimes they just start it and then they don't realize they were subject to a law until later on. So a lot of our mission is also educating a lot of business owners about these danger zones and what are the things they need to be, cognizant of so that they can focus on running their business, right? And not having the legal issues of their business from them.
Yep. And actually, I saw on your website where it says, actually, let me bring it in here for anyone who's watching the video. Start protecting your business today with our proprietary danger zone diagnostic. I thought that was very clever. I bet that took a while to kind of nail that verbiage and the whole concept.
It really did. So what happened was that Brett, my partners, it's four of us, but there was three of us that were at the time, Brett, Elias, and myself, sat down and we said, how can we get the word out to people that, because most of the time what we were experiencing is that they would find out about a lot of these issues once they were in litigation, right? And the cost of litigation is tenfold of the proactive measures you can take. So we just started kind of sitting down and talking about all these horror stories and these things that we had seen in all of our years of practicing. And, I don't know who came up with the word danger zone, but we were like, actually, that's pretty brilliant. But it was over the course of several meetings and several, brainstorming sessions. So, I appreciate that. And then what we did is that we took a lot of those stories, organized them into categories, and then Brett sat down and, condensed all that into a short book called The Danger Zones. And then that's available on our website also for free download. Or I think they're Amazon also.
Oh, very cool. Yeah. So I clicked on the button for anyone who's listening and not watching the video. I clicked on the button on their homepage and I was taken to what we call a landing page. And it's just focused on the ebook. There's a video, which I haven't played yet, but that's really nice. It shows it on a phone. And then there's a form where you can fill out. So it's free, I assume, right? Yeah, free. Mm-hmm. Unless you want to buy it from Amazon.
Sure. But you don't need to. You can just go from our website. And then what we do is that we offer for limited time periods, we do free danger zone diagnostics. And then what we do is you set it up with our chief legal officer who runs our business department, and his team will reach out to you, say, here's the information we need. Let's sit down, go through your business and figure out where your exposures are. And then if you decide to work with us to fix those exposures, great. But if not, at the very least, you've been educated as to what your pain points are, right?
Yeah, that's very nice. So, So for anyone who's not familiar, this is what we would call a lead generation magnet, the book itself. And then there's a call to action on the homepage. Correct. And I think it's a great system. As a matter of fact, we were talking about this a little before we started recording. I just finished this book called The Automatic Marketing Machine by R. John Robbins and Danny Decker.
Yep. I'm reading
and they talk a lot about that. They talk a lot about, this is that lead generation magnet that we just looked at. That's the beginning of I assume, your automatic marketing machine. You probably have email follow-ups, the diagnostics that go along with that, right?
Absolutely. Right. And then it's not just a lead generation magnet, it's also an upsell tool, right? So it becomes a way to re-engage any leads that have gone cold, right? Maybe a former client or someone that, because pipelines, and I've learned a lot about marketing as I've become the managing partner. I don't have a background in marketing, but you have, new leads, and then you have old leads, some that are warm, some that are cold, etc. And this is just another tool to also re-engage with them. So on the front end, it's the automatic marketing side. On the back end, that's another system that we're constantly trying to develop. What's the best way to re-engage with our warm or cold leads?
Awesome. That's great. So maybe if we could dive briefly into like the tactics. Do you know, like when someone fills out that form, do you have a system that automatically sends these emails, or is it kind of like manual? I assume it's automatic.
It's pretty automatic, right? It introduces them into a not a heavy drip campaign, but a drip campaign that says, hey, thanks so much. Here's the book, and then it'll send them, information every X amount of time saying like, hey, now's a good time to protect your business. Do you want to set up a danger zones diagnostic, etc.?
Yeah.
Just keeping top of mind, right, at all times, so that we're in a needs-based business. Sometimes people don't see the need at one point, but then later on they'll be like, oh, I do have the need. I just didn't realize it at that juncture. So the more we stay top of mind with people, the better, right?
That's right. Yeah, and hopefully when they transition from not having a need to having a need, one of your emails automatically hits their inbox, right? And then
if you could hit the timing like that, that'd be amazing.
Oh, it's perfect, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
But if not, at the very least, then they think, oh, maybe that's the first person I'll call, because they're the ones who've put the effort out to actually educate me about this. Right?
Yeah.
A lot of marketing now is a lot of what value can you add, right? What free value what things that are of value to me can you give me without charging me anything, right? That's right. The first way that you get you get attention from people, right? It's no longer a world where everything of value has to be paid for. There has to be some value add before they want to work with you. That's how you develop trust with a lot of businesses and business owners. So
100% agree. I was listening to a podcast today. It's called The Game. It's a business podcast.
Sure.
And he was saying that you, in a lead generation magnet or like an ebook like this, you should give away all your secrets. So you give away your best material, your secrets, but then you charge for the implementation, right?
Right. And what we've done now is I've just spent the last couple of weeks building FAQ resources for different types of cases, right? So a lot of times people don't understand, like A.D.A. Title III cases, both the website claims and the physical barrier claims. So we built free resources that explains, here are all the things you need to be worried about or be concerned about. Here's how you address a lot of these things. Here are some of the pitfalls you need to be aware of. We did the same thing for Fair Labor Standards Act cases, for Florida Telephone Solicitation Act cases. And the initial reaction was like, we're giving away a lot of the of our quote unquote secrets.
Right.
But people need to understand, like, it's part of our mission also to educate people, right? And the more you educate them, then you develop the trust. And when they have an issue, they come to you, right?
It's good business, right?
Right. At the end of the day, it is. Yeah.
So I would imagine, as far as different lead sources that you have, this is one of them for sure.
Sure.
I would imagine a lot of your marketing goes into like this call to action and download. Everywhere you go, you should have, I would imagine you have like download this guide. I would also imagine that as business attorneys, you have a lot of referral business as well. I would imagine that's a big part of your business. Absolutely. Do you have any kind of like process, either automatic or like trigger-based process for asking for referrals?
No, but that's something that we've talked a lot about, and we've been doing a lot of research on that. What's the best way to run the referral campaigns? And we've also run into the question of, what is ethically permitted, what is not. So we're still kind of tweaking that, but that's actually one of our using the EOS terms, one of our rocks for this upcoming quarter. So, yeah.
So what? There's an ethical concern, I guess, for a referral from an existing client. Is that it?
No, not requesting it. It's can you share? Can you send like a gift card? Thank you, etc. Like those type of things, like figuring out the granular issues like that, right? Because one of the things that we like to do, generally speaking, is if we get a referral, regardless of whether the actual referred potential client actually signs up or not, so we like to send most people like a nice thank you, gift, like a gift card from Starbucks or something like that, just saying, hey, thanks for thinking of us, right? And it's just a matter of what's figuring out the next step, what is permitted and what is not. And so we're just, working those kinks out. And once we do, then we're going to implement some sort of referral campaign.
Got it. Awesome.
Yeah.
What other kind of marketing tactics do you use for your firm?
I mean, we're working a lot right now on the referral and organic. A lot of our business comes from repeat clients or from referrals. And so networking has become a big part of our marketing campaign also, right? And doing podcasts and things like that, and just getting the name of the firm out there as much as possible, because we like a diversified portfolio for all intents and purposes, right?
Sure.
So the automatic campaigns, we have the drip campaigns, but it's also important to work on the organics things as well. So we're just casting as wide a net as we can with as many different pathways that we can.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a good idea. I've talked to a business coach, and he recommends you should have at least 5 different lead sources.
I agree.
And what I've found by interviewing hundreds of managing partners is that a lot of them rely on one, referrals. Right. And everybody loves referrals. I love referrals, right? You love referrals. But wouldn't you love to get twice as many leads from other sources, maybe 3 times as many leads as just referrals alone can produce?
And not just that, I've had this happen a lot of times. You get an organic referral. If you don't have your website, your SEO all set up, the first place everyone goes when you get a referral is to your website, to your social media, and starts looking into you, right? And if you don't have all of that with your story brand, with the right messaging, with everything, you can lose leads as well, right? So having that tunnel vision of just referrals is probably costing you a lot of money if you're not looking at other avenues as well.
I think that's a great point. So I read somewhere that people trust the internet more than they trust their friends and family. And what's really interesting about that, especially like in the legal industry, is there's such a focus on referrals. Mm-hmm. But you're absolutely right. The first thing people do when they get a referral is they validate it by looking online. What does Google say about this company? And what do other people say? What are the reviews? And if they don't like it, you're absolutely right. If they don't like what they see, they'll discard the referral. So the referral it's not enough. It's great. Everybody wants, but you have to do more. You have to take another step or two to make sure that your brand is cohesive. You mentioned story brand. Yeah, you've been around the circuit, and I know. Oh, by the way, I know you do like EOS. We've talked about that.
Yes.
HTM. So let's talk about that a little bit, because you're investing in your firm. You're a member of How to Manage a Small Law Firm. You have an EOS coach, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, which is defined in a book called Traction by Gino Wickman. Right?
Yeah.
It sounds like story brand. Maybe you've done some work there.
Yeah. Brett. So Brett is the founding partner, Brett Trembly. He has a communications background, and he's an avid reader and constantly, trying to develop himself. So the story brand came from him reading a lot about it, looking into it, going through the marketing circuits, etc. So I can't take credit for that one, right? But once I heard about it, once I looked into it, I thought it was pretty. I'm like, wow, that's pretty self-evident. I don't understand why we don't. It's not, those things that you read sometimes you're like, that's so common sense, but I don't know why I didn't think of this. And so now every time, like whenever the marketing team brings something to me to review, for content to go out, we have a review process. I'm always like, how does this fit within the story brand? And they have to pitch to me how it fits in the story brand, right? Part of this, I joined the firm back in 2017. When I joined the firm, it was myself and Brett were the only attorneys, right? We had one other one that left about 3 months after I did. But since then, we've experienced explosive growth, right? And the common question I get is how, right? And if there was a simple formula, I wish I could share it because I would love to. But it's all these different things that we're talking about. It's about learning them, about implementing them, going through the hardships and the growing pains. But the biggest mistake I see a lot of attorneys make is that they don't have clear messaging whatsoever about who they are, what they're about. That's why whenever people ask me, introduce your firm, I tell them, here's our mission, here's how we do it, here's why we do it. That's the elevator pitch that every firm should have ready to go at any point should someone ask you, what do you do, right?
Yeah.
Because if you don't have that, then people don't really, they're like, yeah, you do business law. Okay, great. There's a million business lawyers. There's a million commercial litigators. What makes you different? And that helps you also attract the right type of clients, because you don't necessarily want every lead you get, right?
That's right.
So, that's what we're really working on, and we've been working on for the last several years. So
that's really, really impressive. So you started off, you and the other founding attorney. Where are you at now?
I think it's our 13th or 14th attorney is joining us on October 17th. And we have, I think it's 10 GSU staffers, 10 or 12 GSU staffers, and we have another 10 or 12 US based employees. So we're probably at about between 35 to 40 people on our team now.
Good for you.
Yeah.
That's really, and that was in 5 years.
Yep. Yeah.
Very impressive.
Yeah. One of the things that a lot of people don't tell you is you always want the explosive growth. We have to understand what the explosive growth is, that there's good things to it and there's other things that are not so good about it, right? So the big mistake that a lot of companies, I'm not saying just law firms, but I think businesses in general, is that once you reach a certain point of scale, like you haven't really built your processes necessarily to be scalable with you, right? So that becomes the first big pain point is how do you update all your processes to make them scalable for the next phase, right? So, people always ask me like, oh, what did you learn from that? That's the number one thing I learned from the explosive growth
process. Write your process down.
What worked before is not what works now.
Yeah. I mean, what I've personally found is that what worked before won't even sustain us at where we got to.
No.
So we've definitely experienced, revenue growth, and then it comes down and we're like, oh, okay, we got to make changes. And then it goes back up. And it's described in business literature different ways. Like the valley of death is one of them. And I've seen it happen over and over and over again. And always the company has to change to just get back up to where we were and then to continue on.
Correct.
It's crazy. So I know that. Go ahead.
And COVID changed everything on top of it.
Yeah, that was a pretty radical change. It changed the world,
Yeah.
And even for companies like we, I don't know about you guys, but like the day that COVID hit, we were like totally fine, just work from home. We were 100% digital already. So it was very, very easy transition for us. But even for us, it changed a lot. Now, for those, that they weren't like digitally inclined. Oh man, I lost you.
Oh, you there?
I'm back.
Okay, go ahead. I'm back. Yeah. Okay. You were saying that even those that weren't digital.
Yeah. So even the companies that were digital, like saw the impact like us, but the companies that weren't digital and they had to rapidly transform into a digital firm or a company, like it was very, very difficult for them. Where were you guys in that kind of like scale?
So we were still full in office, and I had gotten wind that shutdowns were going to happen, right? Because I had friends that were involved in a lot of the discussions, and you said, look, I can't tell you much. I can just tell you that this is coming down the pipeline, so you should start getting ready. So I remember the exact date. We had a whole rollout plan of how we were going to make everyone, remote available. And the rollout, the last day was March 16th. Yeah. And March 16th was the day that they released. I remember this perfectly.
So do I.
March 16th was the day that they announced all the closures, all the orders and everything. So the very day that they announced all that, we were just setting up the last employees to be fully remote. The one thing about us, is we get the comment a lot that our culture resembles a lot of like a startup, like a tech startup, because we focus a lot on the culture. We focus a lot on team events. Like this Friday, like we've done a whole bunch of team events. One every month. This Friday we have our TLF field day games. That was our annual field day games, and we try and do everything that we can to make this feel, more like a friendly environment, right? Not, for the coworkers. But when we went into COVID, that all had to change because we couldn't do any more in-person events. And as much as you can do things virtually, it's really hard to replicate a lot of the energy and the feel of the in-person events also.
Yeah. It changes. I mean, it changes the culture of the company for sure. Yeah. We had a similar experience. Oh, well, by the way, March 16th, 2020 is like etched in my brain forever. Like that it was a Monday.
Yep.
We saw it coming on Thursday. We had just had our largest in-person event. The first time that we had sold tickets to an event, we had sold 250 tickets on the Thursday before March 16th.
Wow,
and people were starting to talk about it. We were kind of joking about zombies and all this stuff, but only about 150 people, like maybe 100 to 150 people showed, and because like this thing was like really coming on fast.
Sure.
And so we had it on Thursday. Friday is when the president declared a national emergency. The governor of Virginia, where we're at, he shut down schools starting on Monday for 2 weeks, and we're like, wow, we just barely got that one in,
Yeah.
But then Monday morning, 9:05, my phone rang. It was our biggest client, a retailer at the time, because we hadn't fully niched into law at that time. And he said, "Hey, Erik, shut it all down, man."
Yep.
What are you talking about? And he thought the world was coming to an end. It was a crazy time, just terrible.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know about you, but like for 2 days straight, March 16th and 17th, I fielded a bunch of calls like that, and we jumped through hoops for our clients and made things happen outside of contracts. We took care of whatever we could. And then by that Wednesday, the 18th, we stopped being defensive and started to go into offensive mode and started to just pump out our marketing and social media.
That was our reaction. Was I was working during that time, probably 14 to 16-hour days, just trying to keep up with all the regulatory changes, all the laws. Because I don't know if you recall this. I mean, one day they'd release here are the regulations on the PPP, the Payroll Protection Program. And then by the time you finally read through it and understood it, they're like, oh, here's an update to it.
Or even better, you get the money and then they're like, oh, here's another update to it. We're going to retroactively change the rules on you.
So what I ended up fielding a ton of calls from different organizations. We did a bunch of presentations for A.D.A, for I think it's called Elevate 8, for like a whole bunch of different. I did interviews with ABC, the local affiliates for ABC, and everybody was just like, "What do we do?" and in my head, I'm thinking, I'm still trying to figure out what to do, but we have to now be the leaders in the business law community and start explaining to people, this is what you do, this is what you can do, this is what you can't. And as things change, things are going to change because this is all a very volatile time. We're going to be there with you, and so we started heavily diving into our marketing and just saying, what, this is where the idea or where the concept of providing free value, for all intents and purposes, really came into play. And out of this was where the idea for the danger zones was born. So,
that's great.
There were a lot of nasty things about COVID, and there's also a lot of things that were good, as far as being a catalyst for changes in certain ways as well. So.
Yeah, and certain things that we were doing that I had in the back of my mind about one day I got to shut these things down. It was kind of a rationale to be like, you know what? Okay, we're going to do away with those things. We're starting anew in some other areas. So it was crazy times. I know you have a hard stop in about 7 minutes.
Sure.
So I definitely want to respect your time. I do have one more question before we kind of wrap things up. What are your growth plans for the next few years?
So our goal is to become a law firm that has locations throughout Florida, because even though we handle cases throughout Florida, what we find is a lot of businesses and business owners want to work with local firms, right? And that's understandable, because there's something to be said about the relationships that the locals build with their community, with everything, understand the the environment, the background. So our next step is we're in the process of getting an office open in Broward, then in either, West Palm, Orlando, the West Coast. So we'd like to have 5 to 6 offices in the next about 5 to 10 years. And we'd like to be at about 50 attorneys, which sounds crazy, but we also thought it was crazy to have 15 attorneys. So crazy is what we do, I guess.
I think it's great. I love it. Yeah. Well, I think that's a great goal and definitely achievable. You guys have come a long way, it sounds like, and you've got all the tools at your disposal, and it sounds like you have a great consultation with business consultants and whatnot. So that's awesome. Hey, if someone would like to contact you, what is the best way for the viewers to reach out to you?
Yeah, they can reach out to us through our website, tremblylaw.com, or they can also reach us at our office line, 305-985-4580.
All right. Awesome. Thanks so much. All right, everybody. If you would like to check out other episodes like this, we have an entire backlog of podcast recordings, about 250 at this point. You can go to our website at arraylaw.com, and you can also go there to find out about Array Digital's services. So, Christian, I appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Eric. Thanks again.